Hey LC Universal, what's up Scott? What's up Chandler? We can go ahead and get started, guys. We're going to start a little bit earlier. Probably move these to 8 or 8:30 Eastern during the summer, just so we're not going up, against the clock till 10 o'clock at night Eastern time during the summer. But these are all recorded just so you guys know. Again, kind of what I'd like to do tonight is talk about some setups that I think could potentially be A+ setups for us going into the week. And then give you guys an opportunity to throw some charts out there and we can look at some potential A+, price consolidation leads to range expansion type of plays, that we can kind of look at from your guys' perspective that you might see. So first things first, this is Costco. This is Costco's weekly. We got a really, really bullish kind of hammer candle on the weekly here, up over 500. Buyer stepped in a big way off that bottom trend line. So we are swinging Costco, or I'm swinging Costco. The swing went about 120%. As we approach that upper target at 510, because it did go to 510, the next level up, as you guys can see on the daily here, we've got 1 rejection, 2 rejection, potentially 3. Once we break 510, I think 518 comes next, and then 523 is going to be that next spot up where we kind of touched at back in February of this year. Now above that, my upper band price target I'm looking for is going to be up in and around that 530 to 535 area. That's kind of my supply zone that I'd like to see us push to. On the weekly time frame, that's kind of what I'm looking at there. Just so you guys know, on the weekly, this is the move that I'd like to see Costco make. I'd like to see us push up through all these levels and then hit this kind of weekly supply area here. Once we hit this, we'll reevaluate. But if we hit it this week, obviously the 515s are going to be in the money fairly deep for weekly contracts. So that should be a nice move. And then over that, really 550 is going to be that next spot up here on Costco. And then over 550, I think we've got a chance at 565. And then over 565, obviously we've got room up into the 590s to 600 area on Costco's weekly. So this was a great setup that we took. I took it off of the 5-minute chart, actually. Costco, we played the flush Friday on Costco. The flush play went very successful. I saw some of my followers actually tagged me and took, $1,000 to 19,000. That's how crazy it really popped. There's the flush plays, like I tell you guys all the time, those are not plays to play with a lot of money. You can size in a little bit smaller on those because if you get the move, it's going to be a pretty violent move in your favor. And all you got to do is follow that volume on the smaller time frames to be able to play the flush plays. So Costco is a great play. We are swinging Costco. We'll see how it shapes up. I want to talk about QQQ next because QQQ obviously. On the weekly time frame, you can see what the story of 2023 has been. It's been tech, right? I mean, just look at this weekly chart here, guys. Here's the first week of 2023. We've had, very, very minimal pullbacks, red candles, if you will, from a weekly perspective versus 2022, right? When we look at 2022, here's where we started 2022 at. We got a big sell candle to start the year and just a ton of red all throughout the year, specifically here and around that April to mid-May. We just got slaughtered on tech. Well, if you look, my price target on the weekly, actually, we're coming back up to, if you look at the weekly time frame here, we're kind of sitting right here at 348. I think over 348, I think we come back up here and we probably grab this area, this 360 spot on QQQ. I think this is the next spot that needs to be tested on the weekly time frame up here, and then if we break out over that on QQQ, then we've got room up here to 380 and then potentially 400 again on QQQ. But tech is just really, really strong. Nvidia has been kind of carrying us, most of the year. If you look at a name like Nvidia on their weekly and kind of what they've done, it speaks for itself, right? Here's Nvidia's weekly, just a massive candle. On this weekly chart, taking us all the way from 298 up to 394 So almost $100 move on NVIDIA for the week. Weekly calls went absolutely ballistic off their earnings, but NVIDIA obviously is that name that's continuing to push. AMD as well. A lot of the chips. Sorry, I'm typing chips. A lot of the chip names have, and semiconductor names, have had really, really strong performances throughout the year so far. And historically, what I think is funny is a lot of people say, sell in May and go away. We've seen a lot of the opposite of that this year. We've seen a lot of buying. And so this is where I'll throw that disclaimer out there that, don't get too biased going into anything, guys, because the market can take everything that you put into it very, very quickly from you. And it's one of those things that when you go into a week and you're biased, it's very challenging to trade, right? Because you've already had a pre-notion, determined in your head that, hey, I think we're going to see downside this week because of X, Y, and Z, or I think the markets are going to rip because of X, Y, and Z. And if it doesn't happen, you kind of fall into this black hole where you just continue to do things that you probably shouldn't be doing from a bad habit perspective. So one thing I'll just leave you guys with going into this week is that I hope everyone goes into this week, with a clear mind, no bias, and ready to play the charts, because right now the charts are looking pretty bullish, but we could have a huge sell week this week as well. We're ready for anything. So just wanted to throw that disclaimer out there that, be on your toes, be nimble, be agile. Every great trader, exudes those skills. So speaking of tech, let's go into some individual names that I want to talk about, some setups that are happening here on tech. So one of them is Tesla. Now, if I show all my levels on Tesla, we're going to get crazy looking things here. I don't want to show you guys all those levels. What I do want to show you though is, on the daily time frame is what I want to look at. What I do want to show you guys on Tesla on the daily time frame is a price consolidation leading to range expansion type of play here. So let me screenshot this and just show you guys what I'm looking at here. Let's pull this down. There we go. Just get some of the noise out of there. So what I'm looking at here on Tesla, guys, on a daily perspective, daily time frame. So this is what I'm seeing on Tesla. All right, Tesla's looking really, really good. Picture perfect wedge on Tesla. And as you guys know, we've played these in the past. When these wedges break, we see some pretty big moves up, right? So the first level that I'm going to be looking at on Tesla, and this could potentially be a swing that we might take, I will let you guys know, but this is one level up here that I'll be looking at in and around that 210 area, right? This is going to be PT1 on Tesla, and then above that, obviously I'm looking up here in and around the 215, 220 spot on Tesla, and then above that, I'm really looking up here at this area here, about 230 on Tesla. Okay, so if we break this daily range, that's what I'll be looking for. 210, then I'll be looking for 220, then I'll be looking for about 230. So $10 increments on the way up. We'll have more precise levels as we go into pre-market tomorrow, but this is kind of what I'm going to be looking at on Tesla. This is going to be a top setup for me going into the week. Tesla long side, along with Costco long side as well. You guys know that I am swinging Costco. We'll see how that works, but I do like this Tesla setup. I'm going to go ahead and screenshot this on the daily time frame. That is what I'm looking at. That's a setup that I really like, and one that I think has this chart has the ability to run us back, right? Like this is pretty. We've got a pretty bullish looking chart so far. I'm just playing around with the chart to see if I can find anything here on bigger time frames, but. It's looking good, right? Like Tesla's looking really good. I think, cancel. I don't want to delete. Just want to hide that. Tesla's kind of been an elongated flag on the weekly. So here's our flag pull, and then here's our actual flag. We've just kind of like been in this like consolidation on the weekly, looking for a breakout of here and push all the way back up. We could get back to 300 on Tesla, which would be wild. if that happened. First stop, upper band target that I'd be looking for, kind of that stretch target, is really going to be 250 if we break out over 210. Like I said, 210, then I'll be looking for like that 218, 220 spot. Then I'll be looking for 230. And then above 230, really looking for that like 255 area on Tesla. So a setup that I really like, one that I'm going to be paying attention to a lot this week, because I think that's it's definitely a setup that could make a lot of sense for us to trade. Now, another one I want to talk about is Affirm. Affirm is one that it's a good flag perspective here on Affirm. Sorry, let's turn the EMAs off. This is a kind of an A+ for me on a daily time frame. We saw what happened when we got that breakout on the daily, right? We played those calls. I think B took the calls over 100%. I tailed him for like 70, 80% on that weekly time frame. But look at what's happening now on Affirm. This is a top watch for me going into this week, because what's happening now is we're getting some price consolidation that will lead to range expansion underneath of a key level here, right? So what we're actually getting, what market makers are giving us right now, is a bull flag pattern, right? So here's our flag, right? Here's our flagpole all the way up. Then we're consolidating, right? Price is consolidating here, but what's it doing? If we notice, it's holding value, right? So we're getting very, very tight. Like you guys always hear me say price consolidation leads to range expansion. This is a game of tug of war happening right now in Affirm, right? We're stuck. The daily candles are stuck between 1373 on closes and 1466, basically, right? Less than $1 range we're stuck in. We're stuck trading in. And if you guys look and see how Affirm trades, when Affirm breaks out of key levels, we get massive volume. We get 10% days, 20% days, right? Like we see massive, massive moves on Affirm. If you look back, and even when we break down through levels, right? Down 13%, down 7%, right? Down 11, down 7. Like we get pretty big moves. And if you look at what Affirm's been doing the last couple days, -6%, +5%. The last few days though, right? -0.83, -0.76, -4%, and then +2%. So Affirm is due for a pretty big move. So Affirm is going to be one that I'll be watching as well. I think if we see a sell, if we get a daily candle close below that 1370 level, we could look at short. But really, honestly, with Affirm, I really don't want to look to even go short on Affirm. I just want to play the long side here, because I think this ultimately will break out, and I think we will go get that 1611 spot, and then above 1611, I think we can make some levels up here. But the next big spot that I think we'd probably head up to is somewhere around that $17 area. That's what I'd be looking for, right? Because last time we broke down through that area, we retested it twice, and then we fell back down to 1611. So I think we come back up here and we probably grab that 1771 area if we get up over 1611. So this will be a top watch for me again this week. Tesla long, Affirm long. Those are two watches that I have going into this week that I really, really like, and setups that I think can really, really be beneficial for us this week to play. Those are definitely actionable setups from my point of view. Now, the last setup that I think is actionable that I want to talk about is going to be Apple. Now, this is one that we saw the breakout. We saw the breakout in the consolidation zone on the daily time frame. We've been here before, right? We got the breakout and then we pushed up again. I want to see us hold and push up again, because I think if Apple grabs that 178 area, we are going to get 181, and then potentially we will go get all-time highs, and I think that's where we'll probably see move up into the 185 area, potentially 190s. But Apple's chart is definitely bullish. I've seen a lot of people talk about, bearish looking charts. If you guys remember, when we talked about Apple last week on Sunday Scan, we talked about the fact that last time we came up to these levels, the last 3 times we were at these levels, we got pretty significant buyer exhaustion candles, right? So here's a big buyer exhaustion candle on Apple. Here's another buyer exhaustion candle that sold us back down. Here's one right here on the week of April 1st that sold us all the way back down to 127. Then we got one on the week of August 19th that sold us all the way back down to 138, and then we popped up again to that 156 area, and then subsequently sold all the way back down to that 127 area again. But what happened this time when we came up to this level? Well, the tides have kind of turned, right? Because if you look at the weekly time frame on Apple, right, buyer exhaustion here over the 174, 175 area, right? wick up, reject, wick up, reject. Well, what happened here? We actually got a hammer candle over that. So sellers tried to step in and do the same thing they tried to do back in August and back in April, and buyers were much stronger this time. Buyers actually bought and said, no, we're not going to let you send it back down. We're going to keep it above 174 for the chance for it to run back to that 178 and then potentially up here at the 181 level. So this is going to be a top setup that I'll be watching going into the week as well. Apple, top 3 setups for me, I think, going into the week. My perspective right now from what I've seen are going to be Apple, Tesla, and Affirm long. The other setup that I think we can talk about, I guess it's worth noting, that I've kind of talked about ad nauseum, I feel like, is UPST. Now, UPST is interesting to me because we're holding value above 2264. We did get slammed on Thursday, down 10%. Again, this is a growth name, so with growth names, they're great vehicles to trade options with because when you have big days, up days, or down days, those weekly, the weekly options typically move really well, right? When you have a 10% day on a stock, on an individual name, the weekly contracts are typically going to trade really, really well. So Affirm's an interesting one to me because we're holding value above an area that we historically in the past have sold from, right? We sold from this, we came back down, we tried to push up above this, and we got a massive move over it because 2264 is a big spot. So you guys see the volume, right? Got a big move over it, and then we sold back down. Then you see the volume pick up again here. We've seen this volume in May. UPST volume has been crazy since their earnings. They talked about the reduction of the balance sheet. They've got a lot of good things going on right now from a growth perspective. And right now, like I told you guys a few weeks ago, a lot of these growth names, it's not going to be how much can you grow. It's going to be how profitable can you grow. So when they start to show profitability metrics that are improving certain growth names, that's going to be accretive for upside growth on a lot of these growth names. And so UPST, I think, is just one to keep on watch. We saw that July whale in here in the $30 calls. Now it did almost hit $30, but he or she had about $780K worth of $30 calls expiring in July. So just something to note and something to keep an eye on. The other thing that's interesting to me is that we did see a whale open a position on Friday of last week for 428 calls expiring on June 2nd. So they expired this week coming up. Now, the interesting thing about that is that it was about 1.5 million in premium that he or she used to purchase those calls, the 428 calls for Friday. So I don't know if that signifies anything. It could be a very degenerate bet based off of someone who made a lot off of NVIDIA, but just something to think about as you guys are going throughout the week trading. Just know that someone did open up that position on Friday. We could see a pretty big move off of that based on that. I do want to look at two more names while I have you guys on here. I want to look at Meta just to see what we have going on with Meta. Yeah, so Meta's an interesting one, guys. We got that daily breakout here, going for the 264 level. That's the next spot up that I have on Meta. What a move on Meta, guys, though, out of that wedge that we played back in December. Swingers are really happy here, right? Like back in December, if you would have swung, let's say June, right? June 200 calls. We're now at 262, so those are massive in the money. This is where swingers make their money, right? Wedge break, massive move up. Falling wedge, massive move up. So I think that we are coming back here to that area. I told you guys, right? I remember I told you, I said if we get over 254 on Meta, we're going to see a really big move up. And I said I think 264 will be the first stop, and then above that, the bigger level for me is going to be 294. So Meta is going to be a top watch for me as well. I'm not going to say I'm biased. I just like the way that the price action right now is leaning towards the bullish side. If we get a lot of rejections off open tomorrow, I'll certainly switch my thoughts around to potentially look to get short on some names. But as of right now, Meta is looking good, guys. It's back in that gap that we had from post earnings gap, and so we're making our way back to that 294 spot. But hell of a recovery for Meta, all the way back down at $88 a share back in November. No one wanted it. It was ugly. It was disgusting back then. We had bounced off of a key support spot. No one wanted to buy it, and now we're trading back up at 262. So just massive moves, guys. If we get back up over 294, that'll be a 4x return on that trade when we approach that 320 spot, I think. So I think those are the names that I wanted to talk about. I want to open it up to you guys to see if you had any charts, any requests, anything that you guys wanted to look at this evening to see if we can find some actionable setups, that you guys have on your watch list that you're going to be watching going into the week. And I'll let you guys leave some comments down below. While you guys are doing that, I'm just looking to see. If we've got anything that we've posted. Thoughts on Palantir? So Palantir's been running really, really well recently. Let's take a look at the chart just to see what it looks like. Weekly levels, baby. These things are, break out, tag this level, hold this level, and push. What's the daily look like on Palantir? Yeah, I have to make some levels here on Palantir to figure out exactly where we're at on the chart. I don't trade Palantir that much. I don't really see an actual setup right now on Palantir. Just looking at the daily, we're just, we're kind of going vertical on Palantir. We're all the way up at almost 14 from 7. So basically 100% move on the stock in the month of May. We've seen 100% return on Palantir, which is, kind of crazy. Especially I feel like we haven't really seen those types of returns on some of these names since the COVID market. So that's kind of wild to me. Just my thought on Palantir is that it's wild. It's moving really, really well. But it's also got a lot of shorts in there. So just be careful with Palantir. It's a growth name as well. So this is a name that you could see up 6% in a day, 8%. I think the one day we had, it was up 23% after earnings. So, it got ignited after earnings and it's holding value really well. So, if we continue to trend up, we'll make some levels on that and see if we can play it to the upside. Amazon chart for the week, LC Universal. Let's take a look at Amazon. Okay, so I got a lot of levels here on Amazon. I've got a lot of little trend lines and things like that going on here. Basically, right, for me on Amazon, what I'm looking at here is this level. I want to see us break over this level right here. So let's take this, turn it back white, turn it back to normal. Now the level I want to make purple and bigger is going to be this level here, 121.31. And why 121.31? Well, the last couple times we came up to this level, we rejected it and head back down, right? But when we got up over this level, when we were over this level, when we got a hammer candle over it, we pushed all the way up to our next level at 124.96 or 125. And then we sold from 125 all the way back down to 121.31. So you guys know I like to trade level to level. I think 121.31 break sends us to 125 on Amazon, and that could be a pretty nice trade to the upside on weekly contracts. Could be a really nice move up. So that's what I would be looking at. Let's see. AI is the next one. AI. This one's interesting on the daily time frame. We've had a lot of moves on AI. Personally, for me, I don't know that I'd be trading AI up here. It's just moved a lot. And AI's hot right now. The one thing I will say is that there are going to be a lot of names that are going to start to come out on like with earnings this week. Let me tell you guys some of them. So this week, basically the AI hype is kind of like the story of 2023. So I really want to see if like NVIDIA and Palo Alto Networks, if they continue the trend that we've kind of seen them put on, and we were able to catch some of those daily breakouts on those two names. But like You have Okta, you have Crowd, CRM earnings, AI earnings I think are coming this week as well. I just don't know. I don't know how to play AI earnings. I don't know that I would gamble in on an earnings play like that as much as I'd like to play the flush. I think the flush play would work really well on AI if we can hold and not pop too much if we can open flat. But you've got those ones. You also have AVGO, which has moved really well, and then ASAN, which is another one. ASAN has moved quite well. So this is one too that I think we could see some moves on. But yeah, so as far as like trading AI right now, we've got earnings coming up this week, so I'd like to see what earnings does for us. Wells Fargo and the banks look pretty good right now, to be honest with you. And we went through a couple weeks there where the banks were looking a little iffy. They're looking pretty good now. Let's go to Wells Fargo. They, we put in a buyer exhaustion candle here on Wells Fargo's daily, but we're starting to make that bounce back up. We're holding value. Sellers try to step in. Buyers stepped in. So I think Wells Fargo probably comes back up here to that $42 level, and then over 42, I think we see that bigger move up to potentially 43. I don't really trade Wells Fargo that much. But they are making, pretty good recoveries, and that was a pretty strong weekly candle. We haven't had a weekly candle close this high on Wells Fargo, right? Since back in March, we had one close over that level. So this is a pretty strong momentum, I think, shift going into Wells Fargo. XLF. We can look at XLF, like it held value really well at that $30 level when we came down. We bounced down to it. We didn't even get all the way to it in March. But, you could make the argument, I guess, like you could say that this is potentially, a big bear flag. Like if you really wanted to say something like that, some people might make that argument. But for me, what I'd say actually looking at this chart is probably going to be what you guys always hear me say, right? Price consolidation leads to range expansion. I'd be looking at this on XLF for a move up, right? So a move up or a move down, but we've got 1, 2, 3 taps on the bottom. So breakout over this level, and then I think we go up and tag 32.87. Then I'd be looking for 33.26. Then I'd be looking for 33.50, and then a move back up into the 35 area on XLF. That's my thoughts on XLF. I don't have a video of how I set up my Webull, Julian, but we can get one of those. MU, very strong Friday as well. A lot of names had really strong Fridays. MU's one though, guys, that like here's a play that you could have taken on MU, and we can talk about this. This is like an actionable setup, I think, that could have been played on a name like MU. Let's go. There we go. So here we go. Let me get a trend here. Actually, let's start the trend here. Sorry. See if this makes sense. Yeah, we've seen this play out numerous times before. So this is what we'd call a horizontal resistance breakout, right? Or price consolidation breakout. We rejected that 64.40 area before twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. The 6th time we broke up through it. We did reject it the next day. The very next day we did get a hammer candle. So this is a hammer, meaning we have a long wick on the bottom. We have what looks to be a hammer kind of up top. It kind of looks like a hammer. And then what happened the very next day, we popped 4% to the upside. We were up $2.65 on the day. And then we just continue to rally after that. But this is a classic support and resistance flip. So if I color this purple, make it a little bit bigger, right? What was prior resistance all the way, all the way back, right? All the way back from here, back in June of 2022, this area was resistance. We rejected it multiple times, right? We finally broke out over it and we held it. We held value. All of the people that were selling at 64.41 were now underwater when we got over 64.41, and they had to cover, and buyers stepped in and pushed us all the way up, right? It's no coincidence that they pushed us right back up into this area, right? Basically right up here to this level, almost 74.76. The high is 74.60. So buyers took us right back to where they had us at back in May at the end of May, beginning of June of 2022. We're right back there again at the same time on the chart. We're now, going into the end of May, beginning of June here on MU. So that's what I'm seeing on MU. MJ, haven't covered AMD yet. We did talk about chips a little bit. We looked at the daily time frame, but just really, really strong. At some point, I would like to see some consolidation. I don't like when names start to go vertical because it's just not healthy for any name really to go straight up. Just like it's not healthy for any name to go straight down. You guys see here on AMD when we did this before back in March, we just straight up, and then we kind of pulled back into this long pullback, and then we broke out again, pulled back, pushed up, kind of consolidated. Now we're just pushing it. We're just gapping up now, right? Gap up. At some point, the gap ups are going to stop, and we're going to have to consolidate a little bit before we can go higher. But these are my targets that I'm looking at on upside here on AMD, right? So I'm looking for 129, then I'm looking for 130, 165, and then 136.35 to the upside. We'll talk about this in Tuesday huddle tomorrow. I think I'll probably have AMD on the list depending on what happens if we do get another gap up tomorrow. RKLB, never heard of this name. Rocket Lab? Yeah, okay, I've heard of Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab had an AI alert for low probability downside. Yeah, I mean, just looking at the chart, I don't really see anything that's screaming. You could maybe say that this is a trend type of play. Or we could say that there's a trend line here, daily trend line. But, for the most part, I'd say the thing I would question with that, like if it's a low probability, maybe it's because we're in this range, right? And we're tapping the top of this range. This could be a nice risk to reward to short here and play down to here, long here, play up to here. But Mark, if it's a low probability downside, I probably wouldn't pay too much attention to that. I would look at the AI that's telling you high probability moves is what I'd be looking for. All right, guys, 3 more here. Let's look at PayPal, Rig, Now, and Shop. So 4 more. PayPal. PayPal's interesting, guys. I think this is going to be one that, again, we talked about Meta. No one wanted to buy Meta at 88, and now Meta's pushing 260, 270. I think PayPal's going to be one that no one wants to buy at 58, but, I think at some point we will make our way back to that $85 area, that big spot on the daily, back into that consolidation zone, potentially in the 70s. PayPal, the level that I've got here is 57.77 on the daily time frame. You had to go all the way back on the chart. I came all the way back over here to grab these levels, by the way. 2017 is where we got that level, right? Here's where we got that day low, 57.77. You guys can see we held value here back in 2017. Under that, though, we fall to 51.17 on PayPal. So that's what I'd be looking at. But yeah, PayPal's getting slaughtered. But that's when, a company like PayPal that people use it all the time with eBay. People sell on eBay. This is a name that kind of makes it's almost like a no-brainer to me, like to add a little bit of exposure to a name like PayPal because it is a big, well-known name. And that's typically when people don't want to get in. It's like when you see red, you don't want to get in. But would you rather get in PayPal at 310 and now it's at 58, or would you rather get in at 58 and ride it back to, potentially that 120 area, 185, 120? That's kind of the thoughts that I have on PayPal. Rig. Let's look at Rig. Transocean. Yeah, this is one that on the... let's go to the daily. This is a really good example here on the daily time frame of some consolidation happening. All right, so this chart looks primed to make a move soon because we've made our way all the way from $3.70 up to $7.74, and we're kind of just consolidating now, holding value, but getting blocked at this trend line up above. And I think when we break this trend line, the way I look at this is I like to play price targets to the upside of where we've hit in the past, right? So over this level, I'd be looking for this target as target 1. I'll just put this line here, right? Target 1 here, and then target 2 up here. And if we go left on the chart, I'm just wondering, do we have any... Yeah, so we can see here. These levels are pretty good, right? Because here, came up to that target, rejected that target, right? Consolidation within this area, right? 7.1 to 7.6 consolidated in this area, and then broke down out of it. So, right, consolidation, breakdown. So again, just proving to you guys that these levels aren't made up. We don't pull these out of thin air, right? You find levels that work, and then you look back on the chart, and historically buyers and sellers react the same way they did in the past in current day around certain price points. Yeah, I know what SQQ is. Hey, Sunil. Let's look at now. Service now. Another one that's making really big moves, but keep in mind here that this is a buyer exhaustion candle, right? This is and we probably should have a level right here on the daily. Why do we have a level right here on the daily? Well, when we look back on the chart, we can see that we had a gap down here. Now we do have a lot of movement in and between these levels here, but this is a key spot, right? Like this is probably another key spot right here on the daily 516 area, somewhere in and around there. But yeah, this is a big spot. I think break over 550 on ServiceNow probably sends us back up. If you look at the weekly time frame, let's look at the weekly on ServiceNow. Yeah, we probably get that move back up to 581 on ServiceNow, and then if we get over that, then I'd be looking for a move up into 600, over 600. Then I'd be looking for that move up to 640 on ServiceNow. Shop flagging after earnings, gap up. Okay, I like the sounds of that. Let's take a look. Yeah, we could say that that's maybe flagging. Oops. Sorry, but I want to do this trend line. Like we could look at something like this and see if that makes sense to play on Shop. We are getting tight, and Shop does like to move. Know that someone did buy $63 calls. They did go in the money when we broke out of that daily time from there. So Shop could be a potential move up, or we could play it down too, right? If we lose to 57.61 and retail sells, we could move down. But if Costco is going to move up, I have to think that retail is going to move up with it. SoFi does look interesting for sure. Low chart, lows. I'm not in love with this, Sunil. What do you see on lows? What do you see on lows? Maybe I'm just not seeing it yet. Price is consolidating a little bit. It's not my favorite chart though, to be honest with you. The weekly looks a little bit better, I think, on lows for sure. We did get a candle close over the weekly. You guys know I typically like to draw my my wedges on candle bodies and not wicks. So we did get a candle close over that, so we could make a move back up on lows on the weekly time frame. Speaking of lows, though, what is Home Depot doing? Yeah, so Home Depot's still in this consolidation zone, guys. It's going to be big when we break this. Been trading between $281 and $300, $20 with the range since February. This is going to be an A plus price consolidation leads to range expansion type of play. And in fact, I'm going to set my price alerts because I don't have them set. I want below 282.60. And then I want to know when Home Depot hits 300. Right? So you guys see how Webull is going to be my scanner. When we break 282, I'll play downside. When we break 300, I'll play upside on Home Depot. But all of this is noise. I don't want to play this because this is just consolidation. Once we get out of this, we'll see a pretty nice move. And if you don't believe me, look at a chart like Microsoft. Once we got out of this, we saw a nice move, right? Look at a chart like CRM. Once we get out of this, we saw a nice move. Look at a chart like PayPal we just looked at, right? Once we get out of this, we made a nice move. So Home Depot, just add it to the list. Once we get out of this, we'll make a nice move. Now, will it be upside or downside? I don't know. We'll play it whenever that happens, but Riot is another one that we can play out of this consolidation as well. When we break out, we'll get a nice move, up or down. Target, TGT. Yeah, Target's disgusting on the daily time frame. Wow, what did those while I have you guys, let me just go back and look at the target calls that I had, or target puts that I had, because now I'm curious. That was a pretty violent sell there. Let's see. TGT 142. Okay, so we have 142 puts. We got them at about $1, and they closed the week at 320. So that was still pretty solid move on TGT puts. I just wanted to see what the move was on those. So TGT though, guys, like my thoughts on TGT, this is a daily spot, right? I mentioned that the reason I got the 142s when we broke down through that level was because I didn't really have a level under 150 until we got to 142, which we hit and we held, and then the next day we gapped down and we rejected 142.37, and then we fell all the way down to our next level subsequently the very next day at 138.09. If we break down through 138.09, then I'd look for us to head down to this level here, and we can mark probably 135.92 area. If we hold, it's back to 142, and if we get over 142, I'd like to see us make a move back up to that 150 spot on TGT. But that's about it for me, guys, from the charts. We talked about my top setups I'm going to be watching going into the week. We got to chart some of the names you guys are looking at, which I really appreciate. I really like, and I like doing that. So the last thing I'll say is that tomorrow is the last day of May. Let's close out strong with actionable setups, and then let's get after it in the month of June. It's time to continue with the good habits that you've been having. If you have bad habits, it's a good time to turn the calendar to a fresh P&L, fresh calendar, and stop with the bad habits and really get after it in June. But I appreciate you guys being on here. These are all recorded, so you can go back and watch from the beginning if you want to. If you came late, if you missed kind of the top setups I'm going to be watching going into the week, but I labeled those out for everyone, and really looking forward to it getting into the market tomorrow after a long weekend. Hope everyone had a great Memorial Day weekend. But I will talk to you guys tomorrow in Pre-Market Huddle. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please drop them in chat. Tag me on Twitter, wherever you want to get a hold of me at, and I'll take a look at it, whatever it is that you want to look at. And, let's continue to bank together, and let's find these actionable setups together and attack them when we see them. But I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.